From where I left off, I am going to figure out where this occurs. So the cosine of 0, if you think about your unit circle, the cosine of 0, the cosine of x is 0 at up here and down here. So that would be at pi over 2 when x is pi over 2 and when it's 3 pi over 2. So those would be two of our critical numbers. And then the sine of x is negative 1/2. Well, the sine of x is 1/2 at 30 degrees. So we're going to be talking about pi over 6. Well, it's not at pi over 6 though, because I'm looking for the negative portion. So if I use my saying all students take calculus, I know that it's in the third and fourth quadrant that the negative 1/2 occurs. So that would be at 7 pi over 6 and at 11 pi over 6, or 330 degrees and 210 degrees. So this is 210 degrees and this is 330 degrees. So these are my 4 intervals I have to test. So I'll make my number line and I'll place each one of them on there. So I've got 90 degrees. I've got 7 pi over 6, which is my 210 degrees. I have my 3 pi over 2, which is 270 degrees. And I have my 11 pi over 6, which is 330. Again, I knew that I should have reminded you it was only from 0 to 2 pi. That's why I knew to stop. We're going to start plugging numbers into our derivative. So our derivative is right here. I'm going to do this as quickly as possible. What we're going to do is we're going to test a value. Maybe we'll test pi over 4. Well, pi over 4, that would be positive, positive, plus a positive. So I know that it's increasing here. Everything's positive for sines and cosines in those. Now we're talking about in the second quadrant. So I know the sign is going to be negative in the second quadrant. So I'd have a negative times a positive here, which would be negative. Now I'm talking about in the third quadrant down here. So I know that both sine and cosine are negative. So when I start multiplying a sine times a cosine, I'll get a positive value, and then I'm adding on some sort of negative value. But when you plug those in and you use your calculator, you'll find out that you have a positive value here. And then the last thing we're going to try is right in through here, we need to test a value between 270 degrees and 330 degrees. We'll find out this is negative and then this is positive. Really, once you have a trig function and you find out it's positive in one area, you can go ahead and put negative, positive, because there's no areas of discontinuity that are taking place. So we could label our increasing intervals as negative, actually just from 0, because we're only talking about the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So I'll say from 0 to pi over 2. I will say from 7 pi over 6 to 3 pi over 2, and then my other one would be from 11 pi over 6 to 2 pi. Then my areas of decrease would be from pi over 2 to 7 pi over 6, and from 3 pi over 2 to 11 pi over 6. Lastly, we'll go ahead and find out whether they're maxes or mins. So we have relative max here because it increases, then decreases, then increases, then decreases, and then increases again. So I have 2 relative max. Those would be at pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. The way we're going to get those y values is by plugging those back into the original. I'm not going to have time to do that on this video. The minimums would be then at 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Again, I'm not going to have time to do that in this video, so we could discuss the rest of that in class.